Hey baby, I hear the blues are calling, tossed salads and scrambled eggs. Quite stylish.
And we are back with episode 3 of House of the Dragon. It's been a minute. Preston, how are you feeling? Are you tired? Are you okay? What's going on?
Well, always tired, but not as tired as my wife. So it's this is the whole secret is have your wife breastfeed, and then you don't have to wake up as much as a man. It's this very kind of a sexist thing. I mean, but this is if you're formula feeding your kid, man, I feel for those fathers. Anyway, but it's exhausting. It's exhausting, much more for her than for me.
Of course. And, of course, everyone is wishing you and, your wife, hopefully you guys had a healthy, happy baby. And,
no, he's doing great. He's doing great. Perfect.
Good.
So I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky, yes.
I'm glad you're very, very lucky. I'm glad you're very happy. And I just want to remind you and the audience that I'm still the heir for your channel. If something happens to you, God forbid. I'm the heir, I just want to say.
I mean, it's another boy, so there's no women in the succession line. I mean, unless you're considered my bitch. So then,
Thank you, missed you too, guys. Welcome back to the Game of Thrones podcast. As always, we're available on SoundCloud and iTunes, so consider checking us out on those platforms. And if you do, please leave us a review; it'll help out a lot. Also, leave your comments down below. We might cover them in the next episode. Yeah. So you were. So as your wife was in labor, I feel like you were watching this episode going,
No. So after you have a kid, you go into a recovery wing of a hospital, usually for 2 or 3 days, depending on how organized they are and getting all the tests and monitoring done afterwards. So there is a lot of weird downtime in between. So I'm trapped in this recovery room at the hospital for 3 days. And so I was able to watch the episode while I was there, and then when I got out, I hastily slapped together a review. But I'm
talking about when you messaged me on Facebook. I made the joke that you had your baby in one hand and you were angrily texting me how the episode sucked in the other.
It wasn't, no, not quite like that. But there was downtime where I was like, might as well. Originally I was like, I'm not going to do any work, and then I was like, I got all this downtime, why not? So.
Well, I personally, my personal thoughts on this, and by the way, guys, you will hear me say quite a few things fairly often with, Phil and everybody else, but I thought this was a very fun episode. Out of the 3 we've gotten so far, the most flawed. There's a lot of holes you can poke in here, but for me, the most fun. I enjoyed it quite a bit more than I did the other 2.
I mean, I think if you're going for fun, yeah, there's a lot more fun going on in this episode. I mean, let's start with the ending, which I think kind of everybody universally understands that the ending is fucking ridiculous, right? The last 15 minutes of the episode are ridiculous, but at the same time, it's super fun and entertaining. What? This is ridiculous. I mean, so I will never say that there's nothing boring about the episode. There's a lot of fun, entertaining moments. I think my first time through, I quite liked it. It was my second and third time through, because we have to watch these things several times for our review. But the second and third times through, where you kind of go, whoa, there's real serious structural and dialogue problems with this episode that didn't exist in the first 2. And so I think when I first watched, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty good, as good as the first 2, as strong as the first 2." But during my rewatch, I was like, "Oh, these are some really serious problems." And so I would say that it's considerably, now that I've gone through it a bunch, I'm like, this is considerably weaker than episode 1 and 2. I think there is a lot of things that are very distracting. That everybody's speaking in George R. R. Martin speak, which they didn't do as much in Game of Thrones at all, but distracts you from what they're talking about. A lot of because the direction is so good and the action scenes are very entertaining, and there's such a spectacle of the event. You kind of get distracted from what's actually going on. But once, on my third time through it, I'm just like listening to this dialogue of Viserys and stuff, and Lionel Strong and Jason Lannister, and just being like, oh God, like nothing they're saying makes any sense. Like there was, I really do feel there was a clear reworking of this episode, because just a lot of the cause and effect and the dialogue like doesn't really fit. It seems jumbled, as if like I almost think they originally had an idea like, okay, this was going to be all about either the succession or it was going to be all about the marriage. And then somehow they were like, well, that's not strong enough. Let's introduce this other issue. And they kind of like tried to bundle those two issues together, and they didn't really make sense from scene to scene. I do think there's some major structural issues with the episode, but still beautiful thing on screen. Still all well acted, but yeah, it just wasn't for me. It wasn't as good as episode 1 and 2.
I agree with everything you said, but I would argue it was more entertaining than episode 1 and 2. I as much as I'm here for entertainment purposes, I'm here to sit back and enjoy it. And for me, I think it's just I kind of miss going places. We finally fucking leave King's Landing and the vicinity around King's Landing, kind of, and we go to the Kingswood, which is different than like a bustling city and a dreary castle, and then we go to the Stepstones. Yay! Like these are new fucking locations that we finally get to go to, and I like that so much. We finally get new non-dragon crazy characters. You mentioned Jason Lannister. Do you know who that is? The actor?
No. Is he actually a twin?
No, I don't think so. But you actually saw him before. He was in Game of Thrones.
Really?
Yes, he was Jon Arryn's squire that gets fucking massacred by the mountain.
That's Sir Hugh?
That's
really?
Sir Hugh, yeah.
Huh.
Same guy.
Well, whoever they got him in Thailand, they look like they're actually twins, So if they're not actually twins, good on them for casting.
I think it might be the same guy for the twin.
Oh, and then they did a like a split screen kind of thing.
I think so.
Because there were some scenes where they kind of have one face behind the other, and I didn't see any evidence of CGI, unlike with like the animals and stuff, where you're like, okay, that's a CGI, animal. But so I was very impressed with their scenes of Thailand and Jason together.
I'm also surprised you didn't mention this one thing that I noticed. I remember this from the book specifically because it's a title of a movie, I think, starring Mila Kunis, Joanna Swan, who was
yes.
So when we cover Fire and Blood, they actually do mention how she was kidnapped and eventually is sold to a brothel in one of the free cities, and they call her the Black Swan, and they actually mention this here. I like how they're taking little moments from Fire and Blood and just sprinkling it in here in the show.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you are correct. Like that Jason and Tywin Lannister are both played by Jefferson Hall, and they did the scenes of them together are seamless. Mm-hmm. That's fucking great work. But yeah, the cameo for the Black Swan, or the little shout out to her, is interesting. Now, I always theorized that perhaps there is something to it, that like later on when she rises the ranks and becomes the de facto leader of Lice, that it does affect the Dance of the Dragons. But this is all kind of speculation based completely on the fact that there are characters with the last name Swan, and she has the last name Swan, and the Maester says her story is completely irrelevant, which makes me think it's completely relevant. But it's very obviously it's Fire and Blood theorizing, and it's all very weak, and there's not much there to work with. But it'll be interesting if they bring her back, and they bring the Swans back, and they make it a little more explicit. There's a lot of things that I'm really surprised that when I did kind of like the deep dive breakdown of Fire and Blood, that I'm actually surprised that the show has come to the same conclusions about. For example, in this episode specifically, they mention that they talk about Viserys' arranged marriage, and he said, "Oh yeah, well the Vale of Arryn had an army that rivaled the North," and you're like, "Whoa, that's actually some good reading on the writers," and I'll compliment them on that because the North was supporting Rhaenys, and you want the Vale army, which also comes with Daemon's betrothal to the Royces, and as something that needs to rival the North, that's a really good line, and it's a really good catch, and it's a really good reading of Fire and Blood. I would say that, most people doing a read would not catch that, that this political marriage was done for Viserys to take the throne. Because when you actually watch the characters of Viserys and Rhaenys like interact on screen, they seem like they have a pretty good relationship, and they're boiling down the entire conflict of the Council of 101 to Rhaenys being a woman. But to put in that line, like, actually, he was getting an army so that Rhaenys would not be able to dethrone him, it's a really good catch. It's a really good catch, but of course it also involves like the first Passover of Rhaenys and all sorts of stuff. But I was very impressed with that specific line, and their reading of Fire and Blood and how well they did on that. But have they done a intense enough reading where they also come to the conclusion that there's something going on with the Black Swan and House Swan? Because how the
Preston, for the love of God, we only have so much time in the episode of House of the Dragon for them to include all these theories.
I know, but this first season is going to be very rushed. But once the dance starts, I think they might have to include other things to slow stuff down, because then it's just battle.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think this is the only battle we'll get. And what kind of annoys me is that, because what other battle was there before the dance really takes off? And what kind of annoys me is that this episode was directed by Greg Yill, whatever the fuck, and he's apparently he's not done any other episode of Game of Thrones, and I'm surprised they didn't bring in Miguel Spochnik to do this, because I mean, he's the battle guy. He did Hard Home, Long Night, Battle of Bastards. Like, he's the battle guy, and he didn't do anything here. This was all some random dude who apparently has a stake in Twitter, who directed this episode.
He did a fine job. I mean, I would have had a boss battle between Daemon and the Crab Feeder, because just they built up the Crab Feeder to be somebody.
They didn't just build him up to be somebody. They also gave him an intricate backstory, kinda. That mask he wears, it's confirmed that's a harpy mask.
Oh my god.
And yes,
how?
How?
I mean, it's like 200 years earlier, before the harpy movement, but okay.
He is confirmed to have grayscale, a dormant version of it, but he is confirmed to have grayscale. And the actor who plays Crab Feeder, he did an interview in Entertainment Weekly where he laid all this out. So I'm kind of glad that this isn't dived into. My thing is that there has to be a law when it comes to Ice and Fire. If a character has plot relevance, and he does, he's the first thing that pops up from Corlys's mouth in episode 1. Right. He's the whole reason why they've been doing this thing for 3 years.
3 years and 3 episodes.
Episodes, right. He should have an on-screen death. Even if it's him just begging for his life, even if it's a pathetic death, that's fine.
Right. Like, I almost feel like it would be, if you don't want to do the crazy battle, you can do the reverse. Like, him on his knees being like, please, no, I surrender. And Daemon just being like, cut him in half. Like, because that's just as powerful as well. But give me something.
Some of it didn't even make any sense because it takes time to wheel those trebuchets out in the open and even fucking shoot them. Why aren't the dragons flanking all the ships and just like shooting down any what?
So you do see Daemon like in the background while Laenor is and Vaemond are bitching about the war. You see in the background the trebuchets going, and then you see Daemon on his dragon trying to take him out.
But it should be both Laenor and Daemon both on Dragonback scouting ahead.
Considering that you like in that scene you see like 3 ships go down, you're like, what the fuck were they doing arguing while their ships are going down? Like it, and I had somebody else post like, no, like they could totally get those trebuchets back in the cave. I was like, what are you fucking trebuchets? Like with that range? Like these aren't like tiny little portable these are like trebuchets that can throw pitch across like 3 miles of water. Like no, like these are it's like. But I said in my review, like, okay, no battle is going to make sense. No battle is going to make sense. I get it. They shouldn't be losing, and they have fucking dragons. It's the Middle Ages or whatever. But they did take it to an extreme of ridiculousness. Like, really, how are you not taking down trebuchets? Like. Why? Oh gosh,
it's dumb. It's by the way, I've asked everybody this, and I'll ask you: have you ever seen the movie The Last Duel with Matt Damon and Kylo Ren?
I have not.
Great movie. It's up your alley. But in the movie, Matt Damon is a French knight, and at one point he's out in the field, and he gets ambushed by these peasants, and they're shooting arrows at him. Because he has plate armor, some of the arrows bounce off his armor, and you actually see that. They bounce off his armor. Why?
Oof, okay.
I mean, steel armor, right? Why can't the arrows bounce off Damon's armor? Why does he have to have action cliche running man?
Right. It's true that I've never really seen that in a movie. Like, because you think that, okay, occasionally you get a puncture, but occasionally you get a ricochet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're saying, like, yeah. I mean, they did all the cliches, like fire arrows and all that, because like no fire. Like, I got a lot of people in the comments too, like, wait, what's wrong with fire arrows? Fire arrows aren't a thing. Okay, there was never fire arrows. Okay,
what?
Arrows?
But Preston, in Total War, several of the enemies use fire. What do you mean?
Fire arrows historically not a thing. No one started their arrows on fire.
I didn't know that. I thought some people used them, some people didn't use them. Really?
No, I mean, just logically speaking, like, why would you want to give your opponent the chance to see your arrow coming in? But two, like, as an aimer, like you go night blind if you had a flame like flaming in front of your face and you're trying to shoot something in the distance. Like it's just like, and plus you have some mass of something on there that's going to change the trajectory somewhat. Like no one would do, like, there's no advantage to a fire arrow. I mean, some people are like, oh, but I could use it like a tracer and then see where the arrows go. No, because the mass of whatever you have on the arrow that's burning would change the trajectory so much from arrow to arrow that you have no clue where your arrow is going. Now, it's also not that important because when you do long distance, like, okay, short-term archery, like, and long distance archery are two different kind of things. So like you have no accuracy with a longbow after 70 meters or something, or, but you can shoot as far as say 300, but that's when you do it in mass. So in this scene, you had en masse like firing where you don't need that much accuracy. You don't, because you've got 1,000, 500 arrows going at once. Why would you need accuracy? So you wouldn't need a tracer anyway. But anyway, this is all getting into the weeds. Like the only reason they do fire arrows is because they want the audience to look at something and they can't see arrows.
Speaking of which, I think I messaged you this. Did you notice how when Daemon gets hit, Caraxes cries out in pain?
Yeah, no, that was definitely an interesting, cool thing. That they're telepathically connected, mind and body.
It's alluding to it. It's not. I want it to be verbally confirmed. The other thing that doesn't also make any sense is how, and I forgot to say this to the other guys. So the Triarchy, they're the free cities are funding this. Why the fuck didn't the free cities fund scorpions? I thought we were going to get scorpions because if you're going to go up against Westeros and kick that hornet's nest, you should be prepared with a fly swatter.
Yeah.
Why the fuck did they not...
it's true. And then you could say, well, oh, we can't get near them because they have scorpions.
Right. That would make more sense.
And then you have a final battle where Daemon's like, screw it. I'm going to go in there with my dragon despite the scorpions. And then he's really taken some risks. Yeah, you had it down. Yeah, that would have been great.
You would think because Westeros has had dragons now for over 100 years, and obviously tales of this has spread throughout the world. Why would you come prepared?
The Dornish wars have already happened, and the Dornish used scorpions, and so you'd think that the Dornish would have a ton of scorpions.
Shouldn't the Dornish be in this somehow? They were in the books.
Later on. So keep in mind that there's like several stages of or not several, but there's a couple stages of the War in the Stepstones. So like Daemon wins. Right. Daemon wins initially, and then the Dornish join, and Ragus, the next leader after Kragus, Crabfeeder. I'm getting his name wrong. It's the Dario stand-in. I have to look it up. I'm sorry. He gets replaced by Redalio,
something like that.
Something like, it's like I'm totally. But whatever. God, it doesn't fucking matter. But but I just people if I don't say it now, people are going to be like posting in the comments, this is who it was. And Recalio Rindoon. So once Recalio Rindoon comes in, they start losing again.
Daemon gets called back, and
yeah,
the whole situation. But I won't keep you for too long. That aside, so you gave the episode a 6 out of 10?
No, I'd probably give it maybe when I first watched it would have been a 6, but having watched it enough, I'm gonna give it only a 5 out of 10. And now keep in mind that like this isn't even for the ridiculous battle at the end. And I understand, I would say that the structural problems of conflating Rhaenyra getting married and the changing of the heir, which happens throughout, and there's some real structural problems of cause and effect, and what feelings she should have. Like, nearly every conversation in the episode is confused because of the conflation of those two things. Like, for instance, she's sitting there with she's sitting there with Kristen, talking about whether or not the realm would ever accept her as a queen. But if she really believes that she's getting usurped, she wouldn't be having that conversation. She wouldn't think that it even would come to that. There's just so many odd, motivation problems and throughout the entire episode that it's just massively confusing. But even that knocks it down a bit. But the thing that just gutted me was I never imagined marrying.
I know.
Again.
I saw the review.
Okay. It's the dumbest fucking line that I could ever see coming out of anyone's mouth. I never imagined remarrying. What are you talking about? What? What? How? I know people are going to be like, no, he really loved her, so he never imagined it. It's go fuck yourself. You think, the human mind doesn't work that way. Have you ever, for instance, if I were to ask you, Carmine, I don't know if you have a will or not, probably not, but have you ever thought about having a will?
Yes. In
your entire life? Mm-hmm. Of course, because we all have. Because our minds think about lots of different things in lots of different situations. Have you ever thought about having kids? Yes. Have you ever thought about getting married?
Yes.
Have you ever, have you ever thought you were gay?
Well,
have you ever thought, everybody thinks about these things like, have you ever thought you were going to die? Have you ever thought, have you ever thought your parents were going to die? It's like your mind thinks about everything. Like that's the way minds are. For any human being to be like, I never thought about remarrying. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, especially considering like your wife just died and you had this prophetic dream that you were going to have a son. Like, it's just such an obvious fucking thing. Like, well, maybe it'll be my next wife. Like that never occurred to you. Like it's so rare to have
Leave
like
Viserys
a single
alone.
line.
He's a fine king. He's the best we've seen. We've seen as the audience. Because Robert was an ass, Joffrey was a douche, and Tommen was weak. Viserys is fine. He's the average Joe.
It's such a tremendously bad. Like, it's so tremendously bad that it's just ruined it's ruined that character for me. It's such a bad. Like, I hate Viserys so much now. I just hate him
For that one line?
Oh my god. It was such a bad line that I can't, like, it's so hard to get around. Like, and this is me forgiving a butt square in the camera farting and, farting at me. I forgive that. I forgive, open straight up murder in a joust, like that pilot episode was great. Despite the fact that, like, a butt farted in my face and it was just fucking murder. 6 people getting murdered. Like, I still thought that was a really great episode. I can't, like, there's nothing to bring me back from that line. There's nothing where I'm just like, oh, well, you know what was really fucking fantastic about this episode? And then I go, oh, well, I can forgive.
Honestly,
I never thought
I'm a little shocked that was the line that did it for you. I thought him yelling at Rhaenyra, even I'm not above tradition, when he literally passed over, like, his male heir for his daughter.
Yeah, I know.
That was the line that was going to get you.
That's another one. But because it's just like you just walked into a trap. Now some people are like, well, Preston, he was drunk, or like in that situation, he was angry and people say stupid things in conversations. It's true, but I couldn't imagine being that drunk and saying something that stupid. I could imagine being angry enough where I would say, even I'm not above tradition, forgetting like that obvious thing. I could imagine him being like angry and forgetting himself for that. But who would ever say, I never imagined remarrying? Who would ever fucking say that? Like, it's just so fucking dumb. One kind of piece of dialogue be so bad that it like spoils an entire episode and an entire character. Yes.
Oh,
that's how bad.
it.
That's how strongly
it was
I
a
feel about
fine
that.
episode. Stop it. By the way, I may be wrong. I don't think we're getting blood and cheese this season. Looking at the episode list, episode 9 is called The Green Council, and episode 10 is The Black Queen. Which okay. It doesn't seem. It seems like War of the Ravens, which then Blood and Cheese happens, will be season 2.
Yeah. I think maybe the Fight over Storm's End will be the finale, and then we'll get Blood and Cheese at the beginning of season 2. But yeah, I mean they have to include Blood and Cheese. Like, they wouldn't skip that. They wouldn't skip that shot.
That's Red Wedding level shock right there. So
though they've really made both Alicent and Rhaenyra much more likable characters here in the show than they are in Fire and Blood.
Oh yeah, of course. They're not point of view characters. We can't. Oh, by the way, there's another thing that I didn't know if you caught or not. You know when Otto says, "Why don't we marry Aegon to Rhaenyra?" In the book, Alicent says that.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're taking a lot of these things because again, it's such a shitty thing to say that they're taking all of the shitty lines. I mean, keep in mind that like at this point in the story, Alicent was also already planting rumors that Rhaenyra was banging Kristen Cole in Fire and Blood. But they're trying to make both Alicent and Rhaenyra much more likable. Because at this point, they're they're pretty sympathetic. The fact that it's Alicent that's sitting there at the end saying, why don't we do what's best for the realm? You should help your brother. You should allow Rhaenyra to marry whoever she wants. Like, all of a sudden, she's the one making the right call while Viserys is being a fucking idiot.
They're making her way more sympathetic, and I like that because we need someone
Absolutely.
on the Greens side. We need the audience to like sympathize with both characters. Plus, I'm glad you brought up the whole rumor thing, because in the episode 4 preview, that's when the rumors start, and that when Rhaenyra, I believe she's touring the realm. She's at Storm's End, which we get to see Storm's End. Woo! I wonder if they're going to keep to the book and have Alicent the one who spreads it.
Yeah, I mean, I guarantee that they're going to do. They'll either take it from her and give it to Otto, or they'll have Otto like straight up order her to do it or something. They've got to do something to keep her likable, because I think that's just where they're going. But that's my bet. My bet is that by the end of episode 4, we will still think Alicent blameless for the shit going down.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you grab a sandwich and we'll talk later?
Gabago, over here.
And I am here with Phil Nye, the Issues Guy, and of course we're going to be talking about some House of Le Dragoon. Phil, what did you think of episode 3?
I think it was my favorite of the 3 episodes. I thought it did a really great job setting up some interesting parallels between Rhaenyra and Viserys, showing how powerful she is as a possible ruler in the way that she just stabbed the hell out of that pig, and then showing the weakness of Viserys. I've heard you and Preston talk a couple times about how weak Viserys is as a king, and I haven't seen it yet on the show. This was the first episode I really felt his weakness, and I thought it was well depicted. I too had maybe a couple of issues with the action scene at the end that I saw you mention. I thought it was done well the first time I watched it, but the more I watched it, the more I picked a couple of action tropes and schlock in there a little bit, but that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. But
Miguel I always fuck this guy's name up. Miguel Spakakick, whatever the hell his name is. He's the guy who directed Battle of Bastards and Hard Home episode. The fact that he didn't direct this, like, it really shows. Like, you really feel like that whoever directed this episode, I forgot, I think it's Greg Yatatis, Yamatis, all these insane names. Might as well be Ice and Fire names.
P. Tire Baelish directed this episode.
Arvaris. No, but you can tell this guy probably doesn't direct a lot of battle scenes, and there was a lot of action schlock in this. So yeah, like the first time I was watching it, I was like, you know what, this is okay, it's fine. It's, I saw some reviewers comparing it to Battle of Bastards, and those guys are smoking crack or something. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. But yeah, that battle, after watching it like a second and third time,
Yeah, that's just a lot of recency bias, and I appreciate that. I mean, people want to love this show. It's a good show. The first 3 episodes are very good. I don't want to deny that, but without picking apart some of the things, it's hard to quantify that, really, because everyone wants to believe what they're watching right now is the greatest thing. But yeah, that action scene at the end, they did that thing that I hate when they cut away from the big battle. We don't actually get to see him fight the crab feeder, and it's such a good build-up that they built up the menace of the crab feeder. I would have liked to see the payoff. People rag on the Rickon Stark running straight with arrows coming, but Daemon straight up was just like sprinting out in the field with a bunch of bowmen that probably have more experience than Ramsay, and he's just like, using the force to push off the arrows. He's like Kylo Ren, just like pushing the arrows away.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. So I watched. I'm surprised the name of the film escapes me, but Matt Damon was in it with Kylo Ren. It was the film he just came out with this past year. Wow, it's the one of the medieval times one. You know what I'm talking about?
Not sure. I'm looking it up because I know we can cut off time.
No, it's the Last Duel.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen The Last Duel yet, but it is definitely on my list.
So you watch it. I think it's great. Very good realistic medieval movie. In it, he has he's a knight in armor, right? And he's fighting like peasants, I think in Ireland or somewhere else. And some of the peasants are like shooting at him with a bow and with arrows. And some of the arrows come just hit his armor and then like bounce off because sometimes arrows will do that. Sometimes armor will actually protect you from arrows. And I would have loved it if the prince of Westeros, the prince of the Targaryen dynasty, had like really good armor to the point where bows and arrows, for the most part, would bounce off it. Obviously not in the gaps where like the joints are, sure, but it's I don't know why the arrows all need to miss him. They can just bounce off. That's fine too. It's realistic.
Exactly. We could set up that he has some sort of Valyrian armor of some sort, and to see the arrows bounce off would have showed so much more like gravitas to him as a warrior rather than just sprinting in there once he got the report. I thought from the moment that he got the letter, there was some good acting choices by Matt Smith right there in showing that while my brother loves me, while still going, I need to save face right here. But also there was that other action thing where, okay, so now he finally decided to do this. He's been in this battle for 2 years, and all he needed to do was sprint in there and draw them out. And I know Corliss's brother said, no, we have a plan. This is what we need to do at the beginning of the episode. But you're telling me in 2 years, no one thought to do like a bait like that and then have the dragons come in and fly. And where's Rhaenys as well? Unless I missed her there. Why don't they have both dragons coming in there? Of all 3 dragons, just destroy the situation. There in House of the Dragon, there's a lot of not enough foreplay or foreplay for dragons instead of just giving us the dragons sometimes. Like we know they're all here. Just have the 3 dragons like lay siege on these crab feeders. But I don't know. It is action, and I said this in my live show. I kind of, as long as it doesn't take me out too much in action, it's okay in the moment, because I agree with you. The first time I watched the episode, I wasn't really thinking about that because it looked really good. Everything was built up. But the more you watch it, the more you pick it apart for Rambo, Commando, schlocky type stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of what... The crab feeder sends all his men at Daemon, like...
one at a time, yeah. Just one at a time, he's just knocking them down. And again, people could say, oh, that happened in The Lord of the Rings with Gimli and Aragorn. But that's like high fantasy. This is a different kind of fantasy where you're just having Daemon, like a one-man army, destroying all these crab feeders after apparently all these crab feeding guys have been destroying the Valyrian army for the last 2 years. But no, just Daemon needed to go in there by himself and take out half the army.
That didn't make any sense. So I like when we cut back to the battle stuff, you could see some of like the Triarchy's people have take out either trebuchets or catapults to launch at the ships. Like, why don't the dragons just like flank the ships and then at the first sign of a trebuchet shoot it, like spew fire on it before anything happens?
Or in the situation where we see eventually the dragons shooting down all the archers on the sides. I know we see Daemon do that once at the beginning of the episode when he flies in and then all the arrows sort of surround the dragon. But again, I say, did they only try that once? Did they come in with the 3 dragons? They have access to 3 dragons right now, and they're using one at a time. I just don't quite get that, other than CG budgetary reasons. Not that that's the reason necessarily, and obviously maybe some how it associates to the book story in some ways. You know this information a lot more than I do. Is this something that gets a lot of attention in Fire and Blood?
They won because dragons. That's essentially it. They won because dragons, not because of some insane bait and switch technique that Daemon ultimately ends up using. They won because dragons. That's basically it. Fire and Blood is just a history book, so there's not... I understand they had to add the extra like action stuff in here, and it's fine. It was to quote Preston, it's fine. It's all fine.
Yeah, it's fine. And that's what I feel about in action situations. As long as it doesn't take me too out of it and I can follow what's going on, it's tough not to have action turn into schlock like that, and as long as it's entertaining and visually good. But I also feel like it's folly not to point out those moments when you see them. And to your point earlier, Miguel Shapushnik, or whatever his name is, personally did not do this episode, and he is the action master on A House of the Dragon. And I'm sure you have talked about this before, and we'll talk about this again, Carmine, but are you at all concerned moving forward? And I know we're talking about the episode, but are you at all concerned moving forward with the announcement that Shapushnik is leaving after season 1?
Well, most of the House of the Dragon stuff going forward will be like dragon versus dragon battles. I'm sure there will be some armies clashing and stuff like that, and people on the ground fighting with them, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Obviously, Miguel Spovovich, he's not like the only guy in Hollywood who can do battle stuff, but he's tried and true with Game of Thrones, and maybe he can come back and do like one episode. I don't know.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure he was hands-on for all of this.
Yeah, and what I'm hoping is that he was at least in the planning stages of some of these action things. And who knows, Sputnik might come back into it at some point in time. And as you said, in the later seasons, maybe he just needs a break. Maybe he's going to help in the planning stages of something like Snow or one of the other series, or he just has a passion project.
Yeah,
so
Snow. Snow. I don't even think Snow. Really? We're getting oh, dude.
Snow.
I feel so bad for Kit Harington. Look, man, he's a nice boy.
He really tried to make Pompeii and gunpowder happen, Carmine. He really wanted those things to happen.
He's in the MCU. He's in Eternals. He might team up with Blade whenever that movie comes out. With I don't think, is it Wesley Snipes or is it?
No, it's Mashin Ali, I think is his name. Sorry if I destroyed his name. The guy that was in the third season of True Detective, and he was also in the first season of Luke Cage.
Yeah, he was Copperhead, I think, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Who was he on? Let me tell you that. No, he wasn't. He was a Luke Cage villain.
Yeah, no. What was his code name on Cottonmouth? He was Cottonmouth.
Cottonmouth. Thank you. Yeah, and he was amazing as Cottonmouth on Luke Cage as well. So it's going to be interesting to see him as Blade. I mean, I grew up with Wesley Snipes, but yes, Kit Harington has been trying to make other things happen. So it's funny that he brought the whole Snow thing to HBO because he's like, nothing else is working in my career right now. You think we can bring back Jon Snow?
Yeah, but where does Jon Snow fucking go? E.T., the Chinese version of Game of Thrones? Like, where does he go? that was my idea for Snow, is that, like, you know, and this is how because HBO, they want to like put more diverse content out, which is fine. That's my idea. Like, Jon Snow essentially becomes Marco Polo. The E.T., they're having their own White Walker quote unquote problems, which is kind of alluded to in a lot of like superfluous material, and they contact Jon specifically, and Jon goes all the way over there, and it's a Marco Polo situation where Marco's, you know, kicking it with the Khans, and Jon is kicking it with the Golden Empire, and he has to solve their problems. He falls in love again. It ends in tragedy, you know.
Again.
There you go. The blood of the dragon. There's something about like prophecy about the blood of the dragon.
He's got to bump into Drogon at some point in time.
Oh yeah, and we're making the show right here, Phil. We're making the show right. We're making this show right here. And then for some reason, Bronn's involved. Like,
oh, he has to. He goes, you've got to, and he's gonna say he has a small dick, and then Bronn and Tormund become like a buddy cop duo.
Here we go.
Sort.
This is the first episode right here.
Yeah, dude, this is all the first episode. Flashes around. It's gonna be interesting to see this come back and see Jon Snow. But when you said that, it made me think of Marco Polo, the Netflix series.
I love that one. I really did.
I know you were like you were the one. And I know someone's gonna comment on this eventually. Go, no, Phil. A lot of people love that damn series. Shut your damn mouth. But that's the example of Netflix's biggest budget drop. Like, they put so much money into that and it didn't work out for them, but it was a well put together series.
A lot of people don't know this, but like before Wong, Benedict, what is that man's name? The guy who plays Wong in Marvel.
Oh yeah, what's his name? Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Wong in Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Plays Wong in Doctor
It's Benedict Wong. I got it right. Before he played Wong, he actually played Kublai Khan in Marco Polo, and he was fucking phenomenal. I loved him as It's the best performance he will probably ever do in his life, is Kublai Khan.
Yeah, it's certainly not Wong. But yes, absolutely. I think Jon Snow series is probably going to be a combination of like that Marco Polo situation and also have an Obi-Wan Kenobi series kind of feel to it in some way.
Oh Lord, fucking Kenobi.
Yep, and Daenerys is going to be like Hayden Christensen coming back, and he's going to have like visions of talking to Daenerys that we didn't.
That's actually, I feel like that will happen. He will get visions of Daenerys, like in the like in the distance, and she'll be staring at him, and like maybe blood will be pouring from her mouth or something. Like it'll be like a horror thing, or maybe he gets nightmares of it. Like, yeah.
And that's right before Drogon shows up. And then out of the mist of what he sees, Drogon flies through the mist, and that's how he connects, because part of her is with him now.
This is a fucking series right here, dude.
Yeah, dude, we're done. We're done with I think we got 2 or 3 episodes.
This is a
here.
fucking series.
We gotta bring Preston to do the hard work in now, and then we're good. We're golden.
But no, this episode, yes, I did enjoy it a bit more than the first 2. Not because of the battle stuff, but because of like 2/3 of the episode I really enjoyed.
I feel the same way as you, Carmine. I don't mean to make this an echo chamber. I think the first third of the episode is really good. I really like the hunt stuff. I like seeing Viserys as a bad drunk, even as a parallel to Robert, a different kind of bad drunk, and just seeing him be just sort of a miserable human being, and all the stuff he needs to go through, and no matter how much he tries to push move the ball, or it's the Charlie Brown Lucy thing. Every time he tries to kick the football, someone moves it and he falls on his butt again. And I think it's just a hilarious thing. It's everyone hates Viserys, and everything he tries to go through, it all fails. And I thought that came through pretty effective in this episode. I also just think the parallels between the hunt and then Rhaenyra on her own. I'm not really feeling Crispy yet. He's not one of the characters I'm feeling, so I didn't necessarily. I didn't love all the time with Rhaenyra and Crispin Cole. I just feel like I just didn't quite feel it between them. He's probably one of the characters I'm not connecting with as much. But I think Viserys, the actor that plays Viserys and the actor that plays Otto Lowtower, middle finger over there, he's doing a great job making me hate him. And I think he's getting overlooked by his performance. I thought he had a really good episode. And I thought it was interesting seeing his brother sort of tell him, you need to get this kid as king. You need to get this kid as heir, to see the kind of pressure that Otto deals with, similar to what he put his daughter through with trying to get her to seduce the king.
That's a good catch. I didn't even catch that. Good on that. Good on that. And people keep saying Viserys is a weak king. No, he's like the average Joe. He's just trying to do his best.
He is, but his best is a situation where everyone can take advantage of him. And I agree with that too. I think he's a nice guy, a good guy, a decent father within this world. You can see that he really wants to let Rhaenyra have her own choices and set her up for success in different ways, even having her in there as a cupbearer. I think in his mind, he's like, just have her in the room to watch everything so she can pick up how this whole process works, with the whole thing with trying to find her a husband, and I'm a Lannister. I thought that was hilarious. I love that we popped in and saw proto Jaime and Tyrion right there. And I gotta give the actor credit for the way he was delivering lines in a very Jaime, even his body language reminded me of Jaime or Drunky Tyrion a little bit. So applause to the Lannister for being very Lannister in this episode. But I think it's important that he is a good guy, and I think even the way he treats Alicent in some ways, when he sees her innocence, he doesn't go, "You're stupid." He's a bad drunk, and when she's like, "Oh yes, you're king. You should help your brother because you love him," and blah blah and all this stuff, he doesn't turn her and go, "You're stupid. Shut up." He's like, "You know what? I wish everyone thought as innocent as you." Like, he thinks pretty purely. He's actually a decent guy, but to your point, he's somebody that he wants to please everyone, so he pleases nobody. And that's actually a real big truth of life. If you try to please everybody, you're going to please nobody, including yourself. And Viserys wears the shirt that says that, basically.